The rain fell in relentless sheets, drenching the city streets of San Francisco in a cold, unforgiving embrace. Ethan Carter, clutching an umbrella in one hand and his leather briefcase in the other, strode purposefully through the storm. His polished Oxford shoes splashed through puddles, and his mind was already 2 steps ahead, focused on a critical investor meeting that could secure his company's next groundbreaking project. The glowing lights of the coffee shop on Pine Street promised a fleeting reprieve from the downpour. As he approached, however, his sharp eyes caught a figure huddled near the entrance. A woman draped in a threadbare jacket sat shivering on the rain-slicked steps. Her posture was small, almost as if she wished to disappear into the shadows. Ethan hesitated, the warmth of the coffee shop's interior beckoning, but an unfamiliar pang of concern tugged at his conscience. The woman looked up, her face partially obscured by damp hair clinging to her cheeks. Her piercing blue eyes, despite the exhaustion they carried, shone with a quiet defiance that made Ethan falter. There was something strikingly human about her gaze, raw and unguarded. "Are you all right?" Ethan asked, his voice firm but not unkind. The woman blinked, startled by the unexpected question. "I'm fine," she murmured, though her trembling hands betrayed her words. Without thinking, Ethan shrugged off his designer coat, a coat worth more than most paychecks, and draped it over her shoulders. The gesture seemed almost reflexive, a fleeting impulse that surprised even him. "Stay warm," he said simply, stepping back before she could protest. As Ethan turned to leave, he felt her eyes on him, as if trying to commit the moment to memory. Unbeknownst to him, her fingers brushed against a stitched monogram inside the coat. E. Carter. A name that meant nothing to her now, but would soon become impossible to forget. Ethan continued toward his destination, the weight of the encounter lingering in his thoughts. It was a small act, insignificant in the grand scheme of his life. Yet, as he entered the boardroom and shook hands with powerful investors, he couldn't shake the image of those defiant blue eyes or the silent gratitude they conveyed. Back on the coffee shop steps, Olivia Bennett pulled the coat tighter around her as the storm raged on. She whispered his name aloud, testing its weight on her tongue. For the first time in weeks, a spark of determination lit within her. She would find a way to return the coat, and perhaps in doing so, begin to reclaim the fragments of her own lost dignity. Unbeknownst to either of them, this fleeting encounter was the first thread in a tapestry that would bind their lives together in ways neither could foresee. For in the storm's cold embrace, a connection had been forged, and with it, a story had begun. A story of second chances, unspoken truths, and the extraordinary power of human connection. The storm had passed by morning, leaving San Francisco washed in a cool, damp glow. The city buzzed as usual, its relentless pace indifferent to the lives of those within it. Amid the noise, Olivia Bennett sat in a small diner, the faint aroma of burnt coffee and bacon enveloping her. She wore the coat Ethan had given her, its warmth a stark contrast to the cold isolation she had grown accustomed to. The diner's cracked vinyl seat squeaked beneath her as she leaned forward, her hands wrapped around a chipped coffee cup. On the table lay a newspaper, its front page showcasing yet another tech milestone achieved by Ethan Carter's company. The bold headline read, "Ethan Carter, innovating the future." Olivia stared at the article, the words blurring as her thoughts drifted. It had been years since her life had made sense. Once a respected sociology professor at Stanford, Olivia had lectured on inequality and systemic failures. Ironically, she had fallen victim to the very injustices she taught about. Her downfall had begun with the sudden deaths of her parents and in a car accident, leaving her as the sole caretaker for their mounting medical debts. To make matters worse, a trusted financial advisor had lured her into a fraudulent investment scheme, stripping her of her savings. Her home, career, and sense of stability had unraveled in a matter of months. Now, sitting in that diner, Olivia couldn't help but wonder how far she had fallen. Yet, Ethan's unexpected kindness had stirred something in her, a sense that not all was lost. The monogram on the coat was her lifeline, a link to a man who had shown her humanity in a city that often lacked it. She resolved to return the coat, not just as a token of gratitude, but as a way to take the first step toward reclaiming her dignity. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his sleek office on the 20th floor of a skyscraper in the heart of the financial district. The room exuded power. Dark wood panels, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, and an impressive collection of awards displayed behind his polished mahogany desk. Yet Ethan's mind was elsewhere. He stared at his laptop screen, its endless rows of numbers blurring into irrelevance. The investor meeting the previous day had been a success, but Ethan felt hollow. His assistant, Mark Davies, entered the office with a brisk knock, carrying a stack of documents. "Here are the reports you requested, Mr. Carter," Mark said, placing the files on the desk. Noticing Ethan's distracted expression, he hesitated. "Is everything all right?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "Just tired," he said curtly. Mark nodded, accustomed to his boss's reserved demeanor, and left without pressing further. Ethan glanced at the window, his thoughts drifting back to the woman outside the coffee shop. He had helped her on impulse, but her piercing gaze lingered in his mind. It wasn't pity he felt, it was curiosity. There had been a strength in her eyes, a quiet resilience that intrigued him. He shook his head, chastising himself for being distracted by a stranger when so much demanded his attention. That afternoon, Olivia stood outside a towering glass building in the heart of the city. She clutched the coat tightly, her heart pounding. She had spent hours mustering the courage to find Ethan Carter's office. The receptionist had been skeptical, but ultimately provided his company's address after Olivia explained her intention to return a personal item. Taking a deep breath, she entered the lobby. The space was immaculate, with marble floors and an air of quiet efficiency. A receptionist looked up from her desk, her polished demeanor faltering slightly as she took in Olivia's worn appearance. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, her tone polite but cautious. "I'm here to see Ethan Carter," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the judgment she sensed. "It's important." The receptionist's eyebrows arched, but before she could respond, Mark Davies happened to pass by. He stopped, his curiosity piqued by the interaction. "What's going on here?" he asked, stepping closer. "I need to return something to Mr. Carter," Olivia explained, holding up the coat. Mark's sharp eyes took in her appearance, his skepticism evident. "You're here to return that coat?" "Yes," Olivia replied firmly. "It belongs to him." Mark hesitated, then nodded. "Wait here." Minutes later, Ethan stood at the edge of the lobby, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with Olivia's threadbare clothes. When their eyes met, Olivia felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. "You came," Ethan said, his surprise evident. "I wanted to return this," Olivia said, holding out the coat. "And to thank you." Ethan took the coat, but didn't look at it. His focus was entirely on Olivia. "You didn't have to come all this way," he said, "but I'm glad you did." For a moment, they stood in silence, the bustling lobby around them fading into the background. Then Ethan gestured toward the elevator. "Let's talk somewhere quieter." In Ethan's office, Olivia recounted her story. She spoke of her parents, the financial ruin, and the series of choices that had led her to the streets. Her voice trembled at times, but she held her head high. determined not to let shame consume her. Ethan listened intently, his expression softening with each word. When she finished, he leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "You've been through more than anyone should have to endure," he said. "I can't imagine what that's been like." "It's been hard," Olivia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm trying to move forward." Ethan's gaze was steady. "Let me help." Olivia blinked, caught off guard. "Why would you do that?" Ethan hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because I've been where you are. Not homeless, but lost. I know what it's like to feel like the world has turned its back on you." Olivia studied him, unsure whether to trust his sincerity. Yet there was something in his tone, a quiet vulnerability that convinced her he meant every word. "Okay," she said finally, "but only until I can get back on my feet." Ethan nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. "Deal." As the rain began to fall again outside Ethan's office window, both he and Olivia felt the faint stirrings of change. For Olivia, it was the first glimmer of hope in years. For Ethan, it was the beginning of a connection that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and the world. But neither of them could predict how their intertwined fates would unfold, or the trials that awaited them. For now, it was enough to take the first step, together. The San Francisco evening skyline shimmered like a million scattered diamonds against the velvet night. The towering cityscape, bustling with its ceaseless energy, seemed oblivious to the converging paths of two unlikely individuals: Ethan Carter, a man accustomed to commanding attention, and Olivia Bennett, who had spent years fading into the background. Ethan adjusted the cufflinks on his tailored suit as he stepped into the lavish ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel. The annual gala for the Better Futures Foundation was one of the most anticipated events in the city's social calendar. For Ethan, it was an opportunity to network with influential figures while demonstrating his philanthropic spirit. The room was a testament to excess, with crystal chandeliers casting a golden glow over the marble floors. Waiters weaved seamlessly through clusters of well-dressed attendees, balancing trays of champagne flutes. Ethan moved with purpose, exchanging polite nods and handshakes as he scanned the room for Victor Harrington, a rival businessman with a penchant for stirring trouble. Across the room, Olivia stood near the edge of the crowd, her nerves barely concealed beneath a borrowed evening gown. Thanks to Ethan's help, she had secured temporary housing and cleaned up her appearance. Still, she felt like an imposter amid the opulence. The invitation to the gala had come unexpectedly, delivered by a volunteer coordinator at the community shelter. She'd agreed reluctantly, knowing it was a chance to blend in and remain unnoticed while observing the city's elite. Yet, as her eyes landed on Ethan across the room, she realized fate had other plans. Ethan, lost in thought, was brought back to the present by a voice he hadn't expected to hear. "Ethan Carter," Olivia said softly. He turned sharply, his eyes widening as they met hers. "Olivia?" She smiled nervously, smoothing the skirt of her gown. "Surprised to see me?" "To say the least," Ethan admitted, scanning her appearance. The transformation was startling. Gone was the disheveled figure from the coffee shop steps. In her place stood a woman who exuded quiet strength and understated elegance. "I didn't plan to run into you," Olivia said quickly, sensing his astonishment. I came as a guest. Sort of." Ethan frowned, intrigued. "Sort of." "I volunteer at the community center now," she explained. "They offered me a ticket as part of their outreach program." Ethan's lips curved into a smile. "I see. Well, you're certainly making the most of it." Before Olivia could respond, their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Victor Harrington. His voice, sharp and condescending, cut through the air like a knife. "Carter," Victor drawled, his predatory gaze briefly landing on Olivia, before dismissing her entirely. "Still trying to save the world one underdog at a time." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "Victor, always a pleasure. And you? Still chasing headlines with your half-baked deals?" Victor chuckled, unfazed. "At least I know how to close them." Olivia, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "Excuse me, gentlemen, but isn't this supposed to be a charity event? Perhaps you could save the posturing for another time." Victor blinked, momentarily taken aback by her boldness. Ethan fought back a grin, impressed by Olivia's poise. "And who might you be?" Victor asked, his tone dripping with disdain. "Just someone who believes in the purpose of tonight's event," Olivia replied evenly. "Unlike some, I imagine." Ethan placed a hand on Olivia's arm, gently steering her away. "Come on," he said, his voice low. "Let's not waste our energy on him." As they moved to a quieter corner of the room, Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. "You've got guts, Olivia. Victor doesn't get called out like that very often." She shrugged, a faint blush creeping up her neck. "I just said what I felt." "Well, it was refreshing," Ethan said sincerely. "Thank you." Their conversation shifted to safer topics: books, travel, and the quirks of city life. As they spoke, Ethan found himself captivated by Olivia's wit and intelligence. For her part, Olivia marveled at how easily their words flowed, as though they had known each other far longer than a few days. "Why do you do it?" Olivia asked suddenly. "Do what?" Ethan replied, raising an eyebrow. "Help people like me," she said, gesturing vaguely. "You could just ignore us, like everyone else does." Ethan hesitated, his expression darkening. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible," he said quietly. "To feel like you don't matter." Olivia studied him, sensing there was more to his answer than he was letting on. "It must have been a long time ago." "Not as long as you think," Ethan said, offering a small, enigmatic smile. Before Olivia could press further, a burst of applause signaled the start of the evening's speeches. Ethan turned toward the stage, but his thoughts lingered on the woman beside him. There was something about her, something he couldn't quite define, but didn't want to lose. As the night wore on, Olivia found herself drawn deeper into Ethan's world. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong. Her past was a weight she carried, one she feared would eventually pull her under. Ethan, meanwhile, couldn't ignore the sense of purpose Olivia seemed to bring into his life. For years, he had buried himself in work, avoiding the void left by estranged relationships and unspoken regrets. But Olivia's presence was stirring something in him, a desire to connect, to be vulnerable, and to heal. When the gala ended, Ethan offered to drive Olivia home. She declined politely, insisting on taking a cab. As they said their goodbyes, Ethan hesitated. "Will I see you again?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "Maybe," Olivia replied with a faint smile. "If fate decides." As she disappeared into the night, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their story was far from over. Little did he know, their paths were already being woven together in ways neither could foresee. The rain began to patter against the windows of Ethan Carter's luxury penthouse as he stared at the city skyline. The glittering lights of San Francisco had always symbolized ambition and success to him, but tonight they felt cold and distant. He couldn't stop thinking about Olivia Bennett, the enigmatic woman whose resilience and intellect had captivated him. The following morning, Ethan sat in his office at Carter Innovations, his thoughts drifting. Files and emails demanding his attention lay untouched on his desk. He had made a decision. Picking up his phone, he dialed a number he never thought he'd need, the contact for the shelter where Olivia had mentioned volunteering. "Good morning," he said smoothly when the coordinator answered. "I'm trying to get in touch with Olivia Bennett. Could you pass along a message?" When Olivia received the message later that day, her first instinct was to ignore it. After all, what did a man like Ethan Carter want with her? Her life was finally stabilizing. After years of turmoil, she had secured temporary housing through the shelter, and volunteering had begun to give her a sense of purpose again. She didn't need complications, but curiosity gnawed at her. Against her better judgment, she agreed to meet him at a small cafe near the waterfront. As she stepped inside, she spotted Ethan seated at a corner table, his usual composed demeanor softened by a tentative smile. "Thank you for coming," Ethan said, rising to greet her. Olivia slid into the seat across from him. "I almost didn't." Ethan chuckled, sensing her guardedness. "Fair enough. I'll get straight to the point. I want to help you." Her eyes narrowed. "You've already helped. More than most people would." "I'm not talking about a coat or a kind gesture," Ethan said, leaning forward. "I mean real help. Stability. Security." Olivia's skepticism deepened. "Why? You don't even know me." "Because I believe in second chances," Ethan replied simply. "And I think you're someone who deserves one." After an hour of back-and-forth conversation, Olivia reluctantly agreed to Ethan's proposal. She would stay in one of his unused properties for 3 months, rent-free. The arrangement was strictly temporary, giving her time to rebuild her life. "I'll have everything arranged by tomorrow," Ethan said, as they parted ways. "And Olivia, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call." As she watched him disappear into the foggy evening, Olivia felt a flicker of something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Ethan's property turned out to be a modest guest house, nestled in the hills, overlooking the bay. Though smaller than his penthouse, it was a far cry from the shelters Olivia had grown accustomed to. The first few nights were surreal. She barely slept, overwhelmed by the silence and comfort. But adjusting to her new surroundings wasn't without challenges. The guest house came with a housekeeper, a driver, and a security detail, all arranged by Ethan. Olivia felt suffocated by their watchful eyes and thinly veiled suspicion. The housekeeper, Maria, was polite but distant, clearly uncomfortable with Olivia's presence. The driver, Greg, made no effort to hide his disapproval, while Ethan's assistant, Mark, had taken it upon himself to dig into Olivia's past. Mark presented his findings to Ethan one evening, his tone cautious. "She's clean for the most part. Former sociology professor. Lost her job after a series of personal tragedies. No criminal record. But she's been in and out of shelters for years." Ethan frowned. "And?" Mark hesitated. "It's just, people don't usually fall that far without some kind of misstep. People also don't usually extend a hand when someone's falling." Ethan shot back. "Let me be clear, Mark. Whatever your personal opinions are, I don't want them interfering." Mark nodded, though his expression remained doubtful. "Understood." Despite her growing comfort in the guest house, Olivia couldn't escape the whispers of doubt from those around her. One afternoon, as she returned from a volunteer shift, she found Maria cleaning the kitchen with a tense expression. "I didn't touch anything," Olivia said quickly. Maria glanced at her, but said nothing, her silence louder than words. Olivia sighed, retreating to her room. She was starting to realize that earning trust in this world was far harder than regaining her own. One evening, Ethan stopped by the guest house unannounced. "I was in the area," he said, holding up a bottle of wine. "Thought you might want some company." They sat on the porch, the city lights twinkling in the distance. As they talked, Olivia found herself sharing pieces of her story. Her parents' untimely deaths, the financial scams that left her destitute, and the years she spent navigating a system designed to break people like her. Ethan listened intently, his usual stoicism replaced by genuine empathy. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for," he said softly. "And you're more human than you let on," Olivia replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. For the first time in years, Olivia felt a connection that didn't come with strings or judgment. Unbeknownst to them, Victor Harrington was already plotting his next move. Using his media connections, he began planting stories about Ethan's questionable relationships and reckless decisions. The narrative painted Ethan as a naive do-gooder, susceptible to manipulation, a man risking his empire for a sob story. The articles gained traction, and soon, whispers began circulating among Ethan's investors. Mark approached him with the news. "It's Harrington," Mark said grimly, placing a newspaper on Ethan's desk. The headline read, "Billionaire Savior or Fool? The Truth About Ethan Carter's New Philanthropy." Ethan's jaw clenched as he scanned the article. "He doesn't scare me." "He should," Mark replied. "Your reputation is on the line, Ethan. And if you're not careful, this whole thing could blow up in your face." As the media frenzy intensified, Ethan and Olivia's bond deepened. Late-night conversations turned into shared moments of laughter and vulnerability. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Olivia felt the weight of public scrutiny creeping into their sanctuary, while Ethan wrestled with the growing pressure to protect both his legacy and the woman who had become central to his life. One night, as they stood on the guesthouse porch, Ethan broke the silence. "I don't care what the world thinks, Olivia. You're not just some charity case to me." She looked at him, her eyes brimming with gratitude and fear. "And what if the world never believes that?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice firm. "Then we'll show them." The atmosphere in Ethan Carter's sprawling guesthouse was beginning to shift. The initial tension between Olivia Bennett and the house staff was easing, albeit gradually. Olivia found solace in the quiet moments, the late-night sounds of the city muffled by the rolling hills. Yet, amidst the tranquility, her growing connection with Ethan promised to redefine their lives in ways neither of them could have foreseen. The first hint of a bond forming between Ethan and Olivia came during one of their late-night conversations. Ethan had brought over a box of old photographs, intending to share pieces of his past. Among the photos was a picture of his younger self, with his brother Liam, taken years before their estrangement. "Is this Liam?" Olivia asked, her fingers brushing the edge of the photograph. Ethan nodded, his expression darkening. "He and we don't talk anymore." "Why not?" "It's complicated," Ethan replied. "We had a falling out after our parents passed. He thought I wasn't there for him when he needed me most." Olivia's eyes softened. "Family relationships are messy, but they're worth fixing." Ethan offered a faint smile, the weight of her words settling over him. "Maybe you're right." Their conversations often ventured into deeply personal territory, with Ethan learning more about Olivia's time as a sociology professor and the tragic circumstances that led to her life on the streets. "Do you miss teaching?" Ethan asked one evening. "Every day," Olivia admitted. "I miss the students, the discussions, the feeling that I was making a difference." "You still can," Ethan said. "Maybe not in a classroom, but there are other ways." Olivia wasn't sure whether to believe him, but for the first time in years, the idea of a future didn't seem so impossible. Amid the warmth of their growing connection, Olivia began feeling unwell. Initially, she brushed it off, attributing her symptoms to stress and malnutrition. But when the nausea persisted, she decided to visit a clinic. The nurse's words rang in her ears. "Congratulations, Miss Bennett. You're pregnant." Olivia's world spun. The revelation was both a miracle and a complication she hadn't anticipated. Her mind raced with questions. How would Ethan react? Could she raise a child under these circumstances? And what would the world say about the scandal that was sure to follow? Meanwhile, Victor Harrington was busy orchestrating chaos. His latest move involved feeding exaggerated stories to the media about Ethan's reckless philanthropy. Photos of Ethan entering the guest house surfaced online, accompanied by headlines like, "Billionaire's Secret Affair. Is Ethan Carter being duped by a former professor turned homeless woman?" The articles were relentless, painting Olivia as a manipulative woman who had ensnared Ethan in a fabricated sob story. Investors began voicing concerns, and Ethan's board of directors called an emergency meeting. "We need damage control," Mark told Ethan as they reviewed the headlines. "I won't let Victor control the narrative," Ethan said firmly. "This is just a distraction." Mark sighed. "The board is losing confidence. You need to address this head on." One evening, as Olivia prepared to tell Ethan about her pregnancy, she saw the exhaustion etched on his face. He had spent the entire day dealing with investor concerns and negative press, and she hesitated, unsure if now was the right time. "I have something to tell you," she began cautiously. Ethan looked up, his eyes softening. "What is it?" Before she could answer, Ethan's phone buzzed with a call from Mark. He glanced at the screen, his expression apologetic. "Can this wait?" "It's urgent." Olivia nodded, the words dying on her lips. She watched as Ethan disappeared into his office, the weight of her secret pressing heavily on her chest. The next morning, Olivia woke to a storm of headlines. Someone had leaked her pregnancy to the press, and the media frenzy was relentless. Paparazzi swarmed the guest house, and social media was ablaze with speculation and criticism. Ethan found Olivia in the kitchen, clutching her phone with trembling hands. "It's everywhere," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Ethan's jaw tightened as he read the headlines. "This is Victor. I'm sure of it." Olivia shook her head. "This is my fault. I should have stayed out of your life." "Don't say that," Ethan said, his voice firm. "You and this baby are the best things to happen to me." "But the world doesn't see it that way," Olivia said. "They think I'm using you." "Let them think what they want," Ethan replied. "I know the truth. That's all that matters." Despite the mounting pressure, Ethan stood by Olivia. At a press conference held to address the controversy, he spoke candidly about their relationship. "Yes, Olivia Bennett is pregnant with my child," he said, his voice steady. "And yes, she's a part of my life. But what the media has failed to recognize is her resilience, her intelligence, and her integrity." Reporters shouted questions, but Ethan silenced them with a raised hand. "I won't apologize for helping someone who needed it, and I won't apologize for loving her." The room fell silent, his words cutting through the chaos like a knife. Ethan's declaration was bold, but it came with consequences. Investors grew wary, and Victor seized the opportunity to further his narrative. That evening, Olivia confronted Ethan in the guest house. "Why did you do that?" she asked. "You've risked everything for me." "I did it because it's the truth," Ethan said. "And because you and this baby are worth it." Olivia's tears flowed freely as she whispered, "I don't deserve you." Ethan took her hands in his. "Yes, you do. And no matter what comes next, we'll face it together." As the night deepened, Ethan and Olivia sat on the porch, their hands intertwined. The city lights below seemed both distant and promising, a reminder of the challenges they had overcome and the battles still to come. But in that moment, they found solace in each other. Together, they were ready to face whatever the world had in store. The following weeks felt like a hurricane barreling through Ethan Carter's meticulously constructed life. What started as a media frenzy over his personal choices escalated into a full-blown scandal, with every corner of his professional and personal world under scrutiny. Olivia Bennett, once a sociology professor turned homeless survivor, now found herself at the eye of the storm. The morning began with a headline that sent shockwaves through the industry. Ethan Carter, expecting a child with former homeless woman. A love story or a reckless gamble? Ethan's assistant, Mark, burst into his office, a tablet in hand. "You need to see this." Ethan scanned the article, his jaw tightening. The story detailed Olivia's past struggles, her pregnancy, and their relationship, painting her as a schemer, manipulating her way into his life. "Who leaked this?" Ethan growled. Mark hesitated. "Victor Harrington's fingerprints are all over it." Ethan slammed the tablet onto his desk, his anger barely contained. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about Olivia and our baby." Meanwhile, Olivia sat in the guest house, scrolling through the comments flooding her social media. The vitriol was overwhelming: accusations of gold digging, speculation about her past, and doubts about her intentions. She shut off her phone, her hands trembling. When Ethan arrived, she was sitting on the porch, her face pale. "It's everywhere," she said softly. "I know," Ethan replied, sitting beside her. "We'll get through this." Olivia looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never wanted this for you." "And I never wanted you to face this alone," Ethan said, taking her hand. "We're in this together." Ethan's company, Carter Technologies, was caught in the crossfire. Investors began withdrawing their support, and his board of directors called an emergency meeting. "You're jeopardizing everything we've built," one board member accused during the meeting. Ethan stood firm. "This company was built on innovation and integrity. I won't compromise either because of baseless rumors." "But perception is reality," another member countered. "And right now, the perception is that you've lost control." Ethan left the meeting with a heavy heart, but his resolve was unshaken. Outside the boardroom, Mark caught up with him. "Victor's playing a long game," he warned. "He's betting you'll cave under the pressure." Ethan's expression hardened. "Then he doesn't know me at all." The pressure took its toll on Olivia as well. She became a target for paparazzi, who camped outside the guest house, shouting invasive questions whenever she stepped outside. During a visit to the doctor, Olivia encountered a woman who recognized her from the headlines. "You're that woman," the stranger sneered, "using a billionaire to climb out of the gutter. Shameful." The words cut deep, leaving Olivia questioning her place in Ethan's life. That night, she confided in Ethan, her voice trembling. "Maybe it's better if I leave." Ethan's reaction was immediate. "Don't even think about it. You're not running away from this." "But what if I'm ruining your life?" Olivia asked, her voice breaking. Ethan cupped her face in his hands. "You're not ruining anything. You're my life now. You and this baby." Victor Harrington wasn't content with tarnishing Ethan's reputation. His next move was even more insidious. He dug into Olivia's past, hoping to unearth something that would destroy her credibility entirely. Victor's hired investigator, Nathan, delivered a dossier filled with sensitive details. "She was once a respected professor," Nathan reported. "But after her parents died, she fell victim to a financial scam that wiped her out. She's clean, but the optics aren't great." Victor sneered. "Clean doesn't matter. Perception does." leak the financial details, and spin it as her being reckless with money. The next day, new headlines emerged. Olivia Bennet's financial downfall, reckless spending, or calculated move. The accompanying article questioned her ability to manage her life, much less a relationship with someone like Ethan. Ethan decided to take control of the narrative. He arranged for a televised interview to address the rumors head-on. Olivia was hesitant to join him, fearing the public scrutiny. But Ethan insisted. "People need to see the truth," he said, "not the version Victor's feeding them." During the interview, Ethan spoke passionately about their relationship. "Olivia isn't just the woman I love. She's the most resilient, intelligent person I've ever met. Yes, she's had struggles, but who hasn't? What matters is how she's overcome them." When the interviewer asked Olivia for her perspective, she took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. "I never planned for this to happen," she admitted. "But Ethan's kindness changed my life. All I want is to build a future for our family." The interview resonated with viewers, many of whom expressed their support on social media. While the backlash didn't disappear overnight, the tide began to turn. The pressure eventually became too much for Olivia. One evening, Ethan returned home to find a note on the kitchen counter. "I need time to think. Don't come looking for me." Ethan's heart sank. He immediately called Mark. "She's gone," he said, his voice tight with worry. Mark tried to reassure him. "She'll come back. She just needs space." But Ethan couldn't sit idly by. With Mark's help, he began reaching out to shelters and contacting mutual acquaintances, desperate for any lead. A week later, Ethan received a call from a shelter on the outskirts of the city. "There's a woman here matching Olivia's description," the staff member said. Ethan wasted no time. When he arrived, he found Olivia sitting in a quiet corner, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Why did you leave?" Ethan asked, his voice heavy with emotion. "I didn't want to be a burden," Olivia replied, tears streaming down her face. "You're not a burden," Ethan said, pulling her into a hug. "You're my everything." As they left the shelter, the storm clouds seemed to part, revealing a sky filled with stars. Ethan held Olivia's hand tightly, his determination renewed. "We'll face this together," he said. "No matter what." Olivia nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together. Ethan Carter's life, once defined by calculated risks and steady success, had devolved into an unpredictable whirlwind. Every move he made was scrutinized, every word dissected. His commitment to Olivia Bennet, the homeless woman carrying his child, was seen as a liability by his peers and a cause for mockery by the media. Yet, amid the storm, Ethan remained resolute. Ethan's office, typically a haven of productivity, had turned into a battlefield. The boardroom meetings now felt more like interrogations, with the board members relentlessly questioning his judgment. "Your personal decisions are jeopardizing the company," one member snapped during a tense meeting. "The stock prices are dropping. Investors are panicking." Ethan leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "This company has survived market crashes and industry shifts because we've always operated with integrity. I won't compromise that now." "And yet, you're risking everything for a woman who—" another member began, but Ethan cut him off. "That woman is my partner and the mother of my child," Ethan said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "If anyone here can't support that, you know where the door is." The room fell silent. Ethan's unwavering stance was both a statement of his values and a reminder of his authority. While Ethan fought battles in boardrooms, Olivia faced her own war with public opinion. Every step outside the guest house was met with camera flashes and invasive questions. The world seemed intent on tearing her down, labeling her as a gold digger and questioning her fitness as a mother. At a nearby grocery store, Olivia overheard two women whispering loudly as she passed by. "She doesn't belong with someone like him," one said. "She's just using him to get out of poverty," the other added with a sneer. Olivia kept her head high, but the words stung. By the time she returned home, she felt like a shadow of herself. Ethan found her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered when he sat beside her. "Everywhere I go, people judge me. They don't see me. They see a story." Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You're not a story to me, Olivia. You're my world, and I won't let anyone take that away from us." Victor Harrington, Ethan's rival, reveled in the chaos he had unleashed. In his opulent penthouse office, he reviewed the latest smear campaigns with a smug grin. "Carter's on the ropes," he told his assistant. "It's only a matter of time before he breaks." Victor's plan went beyond tarnishing Ethan's reputation. He was determined to dismantle everything Ethan had built. He instructed his team to dig deeper, searching for vulnerabilities in Ethan's personal and professional life. "Find anything we can use," Victor ordered. "No detail is too small." The pressure became unbearable for Olivia. One evening, while Ethan was still at work, she packed a small bag and left a note on the kitchen counter. "I need space to think. Don't look for me." When Ethan returned home and found the note, panic set in. He immediately called Mark, his assistant. "She's gone," Ethan said, his voice thick with worry. Mark hesitated before replying. "She just needs time, Ethan. Let her come back on her own." But Ethan couldn't wait. He enlisted Mark and a few trusted friends to help search for Olivia, contacting shelters and reaching out to mutual connections. Days passed with no sign of her, and Ethan's anxiety grew. It was Liam, Ethan's estranged brother, who finally provided a lead. After years of silence, Liam had returned to help his brother, moved by the depth of Ethan's desperation. "I think I know where she might be," Liam said. "There's a shelter downtown she might have gone to. It's where I went after, you know." Ethan looked at his brother, gratitude and guilt mingling in his expression. "Thank you, Liam." When they arrived at the shelter, Ethan's heart raced. He scanned the room, searching for the familiar figure. Finally, he spotted Olivia sitting in a corner, her head bowed. "Olivia," he called softly. She looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, Before she could finish, Ethan closed the distance between them and pulled her into an embrace. "Don't apologize," he whispered. "Just come home." Back at the guest house, Olivia finally opened up about her fears. "I didn't leave because I don't love you," she said. "I left because I'm terrified. I don't want to ruin your life." Ethan knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "You're not ruining my life. You're making it worth living. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Olivia nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. Victor, infuriated by Ethan's resilience, doubled down on his efforts. He leaked documents suggesting financial improprieties at Carter Technologies, causing another wave of media scrutiny. Ethan called an emergency meeting with his legal and PR teams. "We fight back," he declared. "We don't let him dictate the narrative." Ethan Carter stood in the quiet of his dimly lit office, the city lights of San Francisco sprawling below him. Despite the tranquility of the scene, his mind was anything but calm. Olivia Bennett, The woman who had transformed his life and stolen his heart was gone. The note she left replayed in his mind like a haunting melody. I need space to think. Don't look for me. For the first time in years, Ethan felt powerless. His wealth, influence, and determination meant nothing if he couldn't find Olivia and bring her back. Ethan wasted no time assembling a team of trusted allies. Mark, his loyal assistant, coordinated logistics, while Liam, Ethan's estranged brother, stepped forward to offer emotional support and valuable insights. Despite their rocky history, Liam had proven himself in recent weeks, and Ethan was beginning to rely on him in ways he never thought possible. We need to think like Olivia, Liam suggested during their first meeting at Ethan's home. She's not going to places we'd expect. She's trying to disappear. The team divided responsibilities, calling local shelters, scanning CCTV footage, and contacting anyone who might have seen Olivia. Ethan's network of contacts proved invaluable, but the process was slow, and every passing hour weighed heavily on him. Meanwhile, Olivia found herself in a small shelter on the outskirts of the city. The space was clean but sparse, a far cry from the comfort of Ethan's guest house. Yet, it was exactly what she needed: anonymity and a chance to think clearly. Sitting in the common area, Olivia clutched a worn notebook, scribbling her thoughts in an attempt to make sense of her situation. She thought about Ethan's unwavering support, the media's harsh judgment, and the tiny life growing inside her. Every choice felt impossible, every path fraught with consequences. 3 days into the search, Liam burst into Ethan's office, clutching a slip of paper. I've got something, he said breathlessly. A friend at one of the shelters thinks she saw Olivia. Ethan's heart raced as he grabbed his coat. Where? South Market District, Liam replied. It's a small shelter near the park. Without hesitation, Ethan and Liam drove across the city. The car ride was tense, filled with a mix of hope and anxiety. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly, his mind racing with possibilities. Would she be angry that he'd ignored her request? Would she even want to come back? The shelter was unassuming, a modest building nestled between two larger structures. Ethan stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room, until they landed on Olivia. She sat in a corner, her posture hunched, her gaze distant. Olivia, Ethan called softly. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise and emotion. Ethan, what are you doing here? I'm here for you, he said, taking a cautious step closer. Please, just hear me out. Olivia's shoulders sagged as she stood, her voice trembling. I told you not to come. I know, Ethan admitted, his tone gentle, but I couldn't let you face this alone. I love you, Olivia, and I'm not going anywhere. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as she looked at him. I left because I didn't want to be your burden. You're not a burden, Ethan said firmly, closing the distance between them. You're my partner, my family, and I need you as much as you need me. In that moment, the weight of Olivia's fear lifted slightly. She nodded, allowing Ethan to pull her into an embrace. For the first time in days, she felt safe. Back at Ethan's guest house, Olivia opened up about her struggles. I was so scared, she confessed, sitting beside him on the couch. Scared of ruining your life, of not being enough for you or our child. Ethan took her hand in his gaze steady. You're more than enough, Olivia. And we're in this together, no matter what. Their conversation lasted late into the night, laying bare their fears and hopes. By the end, Olivia felt a renewed sense of strength, bolstered by Ethan's unwavering love. While Ethan and Olivia found solace in each other, Victor Harrington was busy plotting his next move. Enraged by Ethan's resilience, Victor doubled down on his campaign to destroy him. "We need more leverage," Victor told his team during a meeting. "Dig deeper into his past. Find something we can use." One of Victor's private investigators uncovered details about Ethan's estranged relationship with his parents and his troubled youth. Victor smiled coldly as he reviewed the files. "Let's see how the golden boy handles having his skeletons dragged into the light." Olivia, unaware of Victor's schemes, began taking steps to rebuild her confidence. She started volunteering at a community center, helping other women in need. The experience reminded her of her days as a sociology professor, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of purpose. Ethan supported her efforts wholeheartedly, even donating funds to the center. "This is who you are, Olivia," he told her one evening. Strong, compassionate, and unstoppable, Ethan and Olivia sat across from each other in the warm glow of their kitchen. Despite the storm raging outside, the atmosphere inside was calm, a fragile peace built from their reunion. However, the headlines accusing Ethan of hiding a scandal from his past cast a long shadow over their newfound serenity. "I need to face this," Ethan said, setting the newspaper down. The headline read, "Golden Boy's Dark Secrets, Scandal Threatens Carter Legacy." Olivia reached for his hand, her gaze steady. "We'll face this together." Ethan's instincts kicked in. He called an emergency meeting with his public relations team and legal advisors. His brother Liam, now an integral part of Ethan's inner circle, joined the meeting. "We need transparency," Ethan said firmly. "If there's anything in my past that can hurt us, it's better we address it on our terms." Liam nodded. "You've built your career on integrity. That's what people respect about you." The team worked late into the night, gathering evidence to counter the claims and preparing statements. Olivia, determined to help, dug into Victor Harrington's recent activities, suspecting the story's origins. "I'm not just going to sit here while he attacks you," Olivia said, her voice filled with resolve. As Ethan fought his battles in the boardroom, Olivia grew increasingly involved in her work at the community center. Her contributions had not gone unnoticed. The director offered her a leadership role in organizing a major fundraiser. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Olivia admitted to Ethan one evening. He smiled. "You've faced more challenges in the past year than most people do in a lifetime. You're more than ready." Encouraged by Ethan's faith in her, Olivia accepted the position. The fundraiser became a significant event, bringing together influential figures from across San Francisco. Among them was Nathan Harrington, Victor's estranged son. Victor Harrington was enraged by the lack of immediate fallout from his media attack. "Why hasn't this destroyed him yet?" he barked at his private investigator. "Ethan's countering the narrative," the investigator replied. "He's using his reputation to shield himself." Victor's scowl deepened. "Then we need to hit harder. Focus on Olivia. Find something, anything, that can discredit her." At the fundraiser, Olivia's speech about resilience and community upliftment resonated deeply with attendees. Ethan watched from the audience, his chest swelling with pride. "Tonight isn't just about raising money," Olivia concluded. "It's about reminding ourselves that kindness and support can transform lives, just as they did for me." As applause filled the room, Nathan Harrington approached Olivia. "That was powerful," he said. "And brave." Olivia hesitated, sensing an underlying motive. "Thank you. But bravery isn't optional when people you love are under attack." Nathan leaned closer. "I need to talk to you about my father." In a private corner, Nathan revealed his growing discomfort with Victor's actions. "He's gone too far," Nathan said. "Dragging your name and Ethan's through the mud is just the beginning." Olivia listened intently, as Nathan described Victor's methods and hinted at a trove of incriminating documents. "If you're willing to expose him, I can help you," Nathan offered. "Why would you betray your father?" Olivia asked, her voice laced with suspicion. Nathan's gaze hardened. "Because I refuse to let his corruption define my life." The next day, Victor retaliated by releasing a doctored video, implying Olivia had manipulated Ethan into supporting her. Social media exploded, with comments accusing Olivia of being a gold digger. "I won't let this stand," Ethan said, pacing their living room. "We need to expose him before he does more damage." Olivia nodded, her face pale but resolute. "Nathan has the evidence we need. It's time to act." With Nathan's help, Ethan and Olivia began piecing together a case against Victor. The documents revealed illegal dealings, bribes, and a long history of corporate espionage. Olivia's role became pivotal as she helped organize the evidence into a coherent narrative. During a late-night strategy session, Olivia turned to Ethan. "What if this doesn't work?" Ethan reached for her hand. "It will, because we're doing what's right." As the chapter drew to a close, Olivia prepared to deliver a press conference. She would speak publicly about her past, their relationship, and the truth behind Victor's attacks. "You're not just doing this for me," Ethan said, adjusting her microphone. "You're doing this for us, and for everyone who believes in us." Olivia smiled, her confidence bolstered by Ethan's unwavering support. "Let's do this." The final scene fades as Olivia steps onto the stage, cameras flashing and journalists shouting questions. In the audience, Ethan watches, his expression a mix of pride and worry. But in the shadows, Victor Harrington lurks, a cold smile on his face. His final card remains unplayed, and the stakes have never been higher. The morning sunlight poured into the room, bathing Olivia in a warm glow as she held her newborn daughter, Emma. Tears welled up in her eyes as she gazed at the tiny life in her arms. Ethan sat by her side, his face a mixture of awe and joy, his hand gently resting on Olivia's. "She's perfect," Ethan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Olivia smiled, though her expression hinted at lingering anxiety. "She is, but this world isn't. How do we protect her from everything out there?" "We do it together," Ethan replied firmly, "no matter what comes our way." The arrival of baby Emma brought a renewed sense of hope to Ethan and Olivia's lives. Their home, once tense with battles against external forces, was now filled with the soft coos and cries of a newborn. The nursery, painted in calming shades of lavender and white, became a sanctuary, a symbol of the fresh start they both yearned for. Ethan, despite his demanding career, embraced fatherhood with surprising ease. Sleepless nights didn't faze him. He cherished every moment with Emma. Olivia, however, struggled to balance the overwhelming joy of motherhood with the persistent shadows of their public scandal. Victor Harrington, relentless in his quest to ruin Ethan, unveiled his latest scheme. Armed with a private investigator's report, he leaked documents suggesting Olivia had orchestrated her relationship with Ethan to secure financial stability for herself and her unborn child. Social media exploded. Headlines read, "Millionaire duped," "The truth about Olivia Bennet," and "Carter Empire at risk." As scandal deepens, Ethan's board of directors convened an emergency meeting, pressuring him to step down as CEO to protect the company's reputation. Ethan returned home that evening visibly shaken. Olivia could see the weight of the day in his slumped shoulders and furrowed brow. "They want me to resign," Ethan said, dropping his briefcase by the door. "They think I've become a liability." Olivia placed Emma in her crib and walked over to him. You've built that company from the ground up. Don't let them take it away. Ethan sighed. What if they're right? What if stepping down is the best thing for everyone, including us? No, Olivia said firmly. You didn't give up on me, and I won't let you give up on yourself. We'll fight this, Ethan. Together. Meanwhile, Nathan Harrington continued his efforts to aid Ethan and Olivia. He unearthed additional evidence of Victor's illegal dealings and leaked communications that hinted at Victor bribing members of Ethan's board to vote against him. Nathan met with Olivia in secret, handing over the damning evidence. This will prove that Victor's the real manipulator, he said. But you'll need to move quickly. He's already planning his next move. Thank you, Nathan, Olivia said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. I know this isn't easy for you. Nathan nodded. I'm just trying to fix the damage he's done. You and Ethan don't deserve this. With Nathan's help, Olivia and Ethan organized a private meeting with the most influential members of the board. Ethan presented the evidence against Victor, his tone calm but unyielding. This is who you're aligning yourselves with, Ethan said, placing the incriminating documents on the table. Do you want your names associated with his crimes when this all comes to light? The room fell silent as the board members exchanged uneasy glances. Olivia stepped forward, her voice steady. Ethan has always operated with integrity. If you stand by him now, you'll be aligning with someone who values honesty and loyalty over manipulation. One by one, the board members agreed to back Ethan, setting the stage for a critical showdown with Victor. Amid the chaos, baby Emma became a source of solace for Ethan and Olivia. Late-night feedings turned into moments of reflection, where they found strength in their shared love for their daughter. She doesn't know it yet, Ethan said one night as he rocked Emma to sleep. But she's already changed our lives in ways we never imagined. Olivia leaned against the nursery doorframe, her heart swelling with emotion. And she's going to grow up, knowing how hard we fought for her. As Ethan and Olivia prepared to go public with the evidence against Victor, he launched a desperate counterattack. Leaked photos and videos from Olivia's past, taken during her lowest moments on the streets, circulated online. The media frenzy reached a fever pitch, painting her as a scheming opportunist, unworthy of Ethan's love. I won't let him win, Olivia said, her voice shaking with both anger and determination. He can't define who I am. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then, let's show the world who you really are. Olivia and Ethan held a press conference to address the allegations. Cameras flashed as Olivia stepped forward, her nerves hidden beneath a calm exterior. I've made mistakes, Olivia began, her voice steady. But my past doesn't define me. What defines me is my commitment to building a better future. For my family, for my daughter, and for the communities that have given me a second chance. Ethan stood beside her, his presence a silent testament to their unbreakable bond. Victor Harrington has spent years manipulating and destroying lives for his gain. But today, we're here to say, enough is enough. The morning air buzzed with anticipation as news outlets replayed footage from the previous night's press conference. Ethan Carter and Olivia Bennett had managed to seize the narrative, but the battle was far from over. Across town, Victor Harrington sat in his opulent study, seething with fury. The public unveiling of his corrupt dealings had left him cornered, but a cornered predator is often the most dangerous. Victor wasted no time crafting his counterattack. Leveraging his remaining allies, he planted stories in the media, painting Olivia as a manipulative mastermind who had ensnared Ethan for personal gain. Headlines screamed, "The real Olivia Bennett, from professor to scammer," and how Ethan Carter, became the victim of a calculated plot. These attacks hit harder than Olivia anticipated. The photos of her life on the streets were paired with speculative narratives, each more damaging than the last. Ethan tried to shield her from the fallout, but the weight of public scrutiny began to take its toll. "I can't let this continue," Olivia said one night, pacing their living room. "Victor is destroying everything we've worked for." Ethan reached for her hand, his voice firm. "We'll fight this. You've already proven your strength. Now, it's time to show the world." Despite their shared determination, the relentless pressure began to create cracks in their relationship. Ethan, juggling the demands of his company and his role as a father, found himself struggling to provide the emotional support Olivia needed. "You don't understand," Olivia snapped during an argument. "Every day, I'm reliving the worst moments of my life because of him." "And you think this is easy for me?" Ethan shot back. "I'm fighting for us, for Emma, every single day." The silence that followed was deafening. Olivia retreated to the nursery, finding solace in Emma's peaceful presence. Ethan stood in the hallway, guilt and frustration warring within him. The following week, Olivia made the bold decision to address the allegations head-on. She scheduled a live interview with a renowned journalist, known for her no-nonsense approach. Seated in a minimalist studio, Olivia faced the camera with calm resolve. "I've been called many things in the past few weeks," she began. "But what I am, above all, is a mother, a partner, and someone who refuses to let her past define her." The journalist leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "You've been accused of manipulating Mr. Carter for financial gain. How do you respond to that?" Olivia met her gaze. "I respond with the truth. Yes, I lived on the streets. Yes, I've made mistakes. But I never manipulated Ethan. Our connection was built on kindness and trust, and I refuse to let anyone take that away from us." As Olivia's interview aired, Nathan Harrington House arrived at Ethan's office with a folder of damning evidence against Victor. The documents revealed the full extent of Victor's criminal activities, from bribery to money laundering. "I don't know if this will be enough to stop him," Nathan admitted, "but it's a start." Ethan studied the files, his mind racing. "Why are you doing this?" Nathan hesitated before answering. "Because I've seen what my father's ambition has done to people. I won't let him destroy anyone else." With Nathan's evidence, Ethan and Olivia prepared for their next move. They contacted law enforcement and key media outlets, ensuring the information would reach the public. At the same time, Ethan's legal team filed lawsuits against Victor for defamation and corporate sabotage. Meanwhile, Olivia worked tirelessly to rebuild her reputation. She joined forces with a nonprofit organization focused on helping homeless individuals reintegrate into society. Her speeches, raw and heartfelt, began to shift public perception. "I know what it feels like to be invisible," she told one audience, "but I also know the power of a second chance." As the evidence against Victor spread, his empire began to crumble. Former allies distanced themselves, fearing exposure, while investors pulled out of his ventures. A federal investigation was launched, and Victor was summoned for questioning. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Victor confronted Nathan. "You betrayed me," he growled. "Your own father." Nathan stood his ground. "No, Dad. I saved myself from becoming like you." The mounting pressure from Victor's unraveling schemes brought Ethan and Olivia closer together. Late one night, as they watched Emma sleep, Ethan broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "for everything, for not being there when you needed me." Olivia turned to him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We're both fighting battles, Ethan. but we're stronger together. Their embrace marked a new chapter in their relationship, one built on resilience and unwavering support. The chapter reaches its climax during a public press conference. Ethan, Olivia, and Nathan stand united as they present the final pieces of evidence against Victor. The media frenzy is unparalleled, with reporters clamoring for every detail. As the press conference ends, a reporter asks Olivia, "What's next for you?" Olivia smiles, her gaze drifting to Ethan and Emma. "We move forward, together." The tension in Ethan Carter's penthouse was palpable as he reviewed the latest developments with Olivia Bennett and their trusted confidants. Nathan Harrington had delivered an arsenal of evidence against his father, Victor, but the battle was far from over. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within, lightning illuminating the San Francisco skyline. Nathan's revelations shook the room. The evidence not only implicated Victor in fraud and bribery, but also suggested ties to an underground network manipulating stock markets. As Nathan spread out documents and emails, Olivia couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for him. "Why now, Nathan?" Olivia asked, her voice soft but firm. Nathan hesitated, his usual confidence wavering. "I believed in my father once, but after seeing how far he's willing to go, I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent." Ethan studied Nathan intently. "We appreciate what you've done, but you need to know, this puts a target on your back." Nathan smirked faintly. "I've been a target since the day I was born." Unbeknownst to them, Victor was already plotting his next move. In his secluded estate, surrounded by a few remaining loyalists, he fumed over his crumbling empire. His private investigator handed him a folder containing details about Ethan and Olivia's pasts. Victor's eyes gleamed with malice as he flipped through the pages. "If they want to play dirty," he murmured, "then let's see how they handle their own secrets being dragged into the light." The plan was simple: discredit Ethan and Olivia by any means necessary. Back at the penthouse, Olivia felt the weight of their predicament pressing down on her. She excused herself, retreating to the nursery where Emma slept peacefully. The sight of her daughter filled her with both hope and dread. How could they shield Emma from the fallout of this war? Ethan found her moments later. "Hey," he said gently, stepping into the room. "You don't have to do this alone." Olivia turned to face him, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm scared, Ethan. Not for me, but for her. What kind of world are we bringing her into?" Ethan wrapped his arms around her. "A better one," he whispered, "because we'll fight for it." Despite the turmoil, the challenges drew Ethan and Olivia closer. They worked late into the night, strategizing their next moves with their team. Olivia, channeling her academic expertise, crafted public statements that humanized their plight and rallied support. Meanwhile, Ethan's assistant, Mark, secured meetings with influential allies in finance and media. "If Victor wants to play dirty," Mark said, "then we'll hit him where it hurts: his credibility." One evening, Ethan received an anonymous tip. Victor would be attending a clandestine meeting at an upscale hotel. Against Olivia's protests, Ethan decided to confront him. In the dimly lit lounge of the hotel, Ethan spotted Victor at a corner table, speaking with an unfamiliar man. Their conversation ceased abruptly as Ethan approached. "Ethan," Victor said, his tone dripping with mock cordiality, "to what do I owe this pleasure?" Ethan leaned in, his voice low but firm. "Your time is running out, Victor. Walk away while you still can." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And miss the chance to watch you and your little charity case implode. Not a chance." The exchange ended in a tense stalemate, But Ethan left with a renewed sense of determination. Nathan, spurred by his desire to make amends, uncovered additional evidence. Recordings of Victor instructing his associates to manipulate stocks and sabotage competitors. The recordings were damning, but they needed the right platform to maximize their impact. Ethan and Olivia decided to hold a live press conference. As the day approached, the pressure mounted. Victor, realizing the walls were closing in, resorted to his most desperate tactic yet, threatening Olivia's safety. Late one night, Olivia received a chilling phone call. Victor's voice was calm, almost casual. "I hope you're enjoying your newfound fame," he said. "But fame has its price." Ethan, overhearing the conversation, took the phone. "If you go near her or Emma, I'll make sure you regret it," he growled. Victor chuckled. "Oh, Ethan, always the hero. Let's see how long you can keep that up." The morning of the press conference dawned cold and gray. Ethan, Olivia, and Nathan stood together, a united front. Cameras flashed as they stepped onto the stage, facing a room packed with journalists. Olivia spoke first, her voice steady despite the nerves. "For weeks, we've faced accusations and attacks designed to discredit us. Today, we're here to set the record straight." Ethan and Nathan followed, presenting the recordings and documents that laid bare Victor's corruption. The revelations sent shockwaves through the room. As the press conference concluded, news broke that federal agents had raided Victor's estate. He was taken into custody, his once mighty empire reduced to rubble. Watching the news unfold, Olivia felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. "It's over," she said softly. Ethan took her hand. "Not yet, but we're getting there." The chapter ends with Victor, now in custody, meeting with his lawyer. "They think they've won," he said, his voice cold and measured. "But they've underestimated me." The lawyer frowned. "What do you want to do?" Victor's eyes burned with defiance. "Whatever it takes." The stakes had never been higher. Victor Harrington, disgraced but unrelenting, was a man with nothing left to lose. From his prison cell, he orchestrated his final play, determined to bring Ethan Carter and Olivia Bennett down with him. The battle that had simmered for months was now boiling over, and everyone involved knew this would be the decisive moment. The tension in the air was palpable as Ethan and Olivia prepared for a live televised press conference. Nathan Harrington, their unexpected ally, stood beside them, holding a USB drive containing the last piece of evidence: Victor's direct orders to sabotage Ethan's company and manipulate the media. "We have everything we need to expose him," Nathan assured them. "But this won't be easy. His supporters will fight back." Ethan nodded. "Let them. The truth is on our side." Olivia, wearing a simple yet elegant outfit, stepped forward. Her poise masked the nerves twisting in her stomach. "This isn't just about us," she said. "It's about standing up to the kind of corruption that destroys lives." The press conference was held at City Hall, a symbolic gesture to highlight their commitment to justice. The room was packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. Outside, protesters gathered, some supporting Ethan and Olivia, others demanding their downfall. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Ethan began the address, his deep voice steady and commanding. "For too long, Victor Harrington has operated above the law, manipulating systems and destroying lives for his gain. Today, we present irrefutable evidence of his crimes." Nathan followed, detailing the timeline of Victor's schemes. He provided financial records, emails, and recordings that painted a damning picture. Each revelation was met with gasps and hurried note-taking from the press. Olivia concluded, her voice filled with quiet resolve. Victor Harrington thought he could silence us, but he underestimated the power of truth and unity. We stand here today, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has suffered under his corruption. Just as the press conference seemed to reach its crescendo, chaos erupted. A reporter stood and shouted, "What about the allegations against you, Mr. Carter? What about your company's questionable practices?" It was a planted question, orchestrated by Victor's remaining loyalists to derail their momentum. Ethan didn't flinch. "Every accusation against us has been thoroughly investigated and disproven. Unlike Victor, we have nothing to hide." But the distraction allowed Victor's team to release a series of doctored documents online, painting Ethan and Olivia as complicit in fraudulent activities. Within minutes, social media was ablaze with conflicting narratives. Despite the smear campaign, the evidence against Victor was too overwhelming to ignore. That evening, federal agents executed warrants to seize assets from his remaining associates. News outlets reported live from the raids, showing Victor's empire crumbling in real time. In his cell, Victor watched the coverage with a grim expression. His lawyer entered, shaking his head. "It's over, Victor. They've won." Victor's lips curled into a bitter smile. "It's never over. Not while I'm breathing." Back at Ethan's penthouse, the team gathered to celebrate their victory. Nathan raised a glass to justice and to the people brave enough to fight for it. Ethan pulled Olivia aside, his expression softening. "We did it." She smiled, but there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. "Did we? Or did we just survive another round?" Ethan took her hand. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Later that night, as the city skyline twinkled outside their window, Ethan and Olivia sat together, holding baby Emma. "Do you think she'll understand everything we've been through when she's older?" Olivia asked. Ethan kissed Emma's tiny forehead. "I hope she'll understand that we fought for what was right, and that love, real love, is worth any battle." The chapter ends with a chilling scene, a mysterious figure visiting Victor in prison. "You still have resources," the visitor said, "and people willing to act on your behalf." Victor leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Then let's remind them that I'm not a man to cross." The fallout from Victor Harrington's defeat rippled across the business world, reshaping alliances and exposing corruption on an unprecedented scale. Ethan Carter and Olivia Bennett, having weathered the storm together, were now faced with the delicate task of rebuilding their lives, relationships, and reputations. Yet, as they turned toward the future, echoes of the past lingered, demanding acknowledgement and resolution. Ethan's relationship with his estranged brother, Liam, remained a work in progress. Their shared effort to protect Olivia and expose Victor had rekindled a connection, but years of resentment and misunderstanding couldn't be erased overnight. At Ethan's penthouse, Liam arrived one evening with a bottle of whiskey. "Thought we could toast to the end of Victor Harrington," he said, his tone light but his eyes cautious. Ethan poured 2 glasses, nodding. "To new beginnings, then." As they sat by the fire, Liam broke the silence. "You've changed, Ethan. The old you wouldn't have risked everything for someone else." Ethan smiled, glancing at a photo of Olivia and Emma on the mantel. "She taught me what matters." Liam raised his glass. "Then, here's to her. And to us, not screwing things up this time." For Olivia, the path to healing began with reclaiming her sense of purpose. The community center where she had volunteered became a sanctuary, a place where she could channel her experiences into meaningful action. One morning, as she supervised a group of teens painting murals, a young girl named Maya approached her. "Miss Bennett, is it true you used to live on the streets?" Olivia hesitated but nodded. Yes, for a while. It was the hardest time of my life, but it taught me resilience. Maya looked up at her, wide-eyed. Does that mean I can be somebody too? Olivia knelt, meeting the girl's gaze. You already are somebody, Maya, and you can do anything if you believe in yourself. Ethan and Olivia decided to formalize their efforts to help others by establishing the Emma Foundation, named after their daughter. Its mission was to support underprivileged families and fund community programs addressing homelessness, education, and financial literacy. At the foundation's inaugural gala, Olivia stood before a room full of supporters. The journey that brought us here wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We hope this foundation will inspire others to see the humanity in everyone, regardless of their circumstances. Ethan joined her on stage, adding, "This is more than a project for us. It's a promise to fight for a better future." While the Harrington Empire had crumbled, Victor's lingering influence remained a specter in their lives. The media continued to speculate on his schemes, and whispers of his loyalists plotting revenge created a sense of unease. Late one night, Olivia received an anonymous package at their doorstep. Inside was a cryptic note. The past is never truly gone. Ethan, reading the note, tightened his jaw. He's trying to scare us. Olivia placed a hand on his arm. Let him try. We've faced worse. As they prepared for Emma's first birthday, Ethan and Olivia reflected on how far they'd come. In the quiet of their home, they hung decorations and baked a cake, laughing at their failed attempts to frost it evenly. Who would have thought we'd end up here? Ethan said, holding Emma as she giggled. Olivia leaned against him. I wouldn't change a thing. When their closest friends and family arrived for the celebration, the atmosphere was one of warmth and joy. Even Liam, once distant, held Emma and promised to be the uncle she deserved. The foundation's impact was immediate. Shelters and programs funded by the Emma Foundation began transforming lives, bringing hope into families who had nearly given up. The media spotlight shifted from scandal to redemption, portraying Ethan and Olivia as champions of second chances. One evening, as Olivia walked through the community center, she encountered a woman holding a baby. Miss Bennett, the woman said, tears in her eyes. Because of you, my daughter has a future. Olivia embraced her, overcome with emotion. That's why we're here. The chapter closes with Ethan and Olivia sitting on their balcony, gazing at the city lights. We've come so far, Olivia said, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more ahead, challenges we haven't even imagined. Ethan took her hand. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. This is just the beginning. As they kissed under the stars, the camera pans to their discarded phones on the table. One screen lights up with a message. Victor Harrington has escaped custody. The world was beginning to take notice of the impact Ethan Carter and Olivia Bennett had made through their work, yet the challenges they faced were far from over. As they celebrated their successes and strengthened their family, new trials loomed on the horizon, testing their resilience and commitment to their shared vision of a better future. The Emma Foundation's annual gala was an event that marked its growing prominence. The venue, a grand ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the San Francisco skyline, reflected the foundation's aspirations. Olivia stood backstage, smoothing her evening gown nervously. Ethan approached, his hand warm and reassuring on her back. You've spoken to bigger crowds, he said, with a soft smile. Not about this, she replied, glancing at the speech in her hands. This is personal. As the MC introduced her, Olivia stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. Her voice carried a mixture of pride and humility. Tonight, we celebrate not just the achievements of the Emma Foundation, but the resilience of every person who has walked through our doors, seeking hope. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the audience. 2 years ago, I was lost. I found myself on the steps of a coffee shop, wondering if life had anything left to offer me. A stranger's kindness changed everything. That act of generosity reminded me that even in our darkest moments, we can find light. The gala also served as a platform to announce a new initiative, the Emma Scholars Program, designed to support underprivileged children. From early education through college, the program aimed to ensure that no child was left behind due to financial hardship. As Olivia revealed the program's first beneficiaries, children who had shown remarkable resilience and potential, the audience erupted in applause. One of the recipients, a 10-year-old boy named Caleb, took the stage to thank the foundation. His voice trembled as he said, "Because of you, I can dream again." In the quiet moments after the gala, Ethan and Olivia retreated to a private lounge. Holding champagne glasses, they watched the city lights below. "Do you think Emma will understand all this one day?" Olivia asked. Ethan chuckled, wrapping an arm around her. "She's already starting to. The other day, she told me she wants to help people like Mommy and Daddy do." Olivia smiled, her eyes brimming with tears. "I just want her to grow up, knowing she's loved and that she can make a difference." Ethan raised his glass. "To Emma's future and to ours." Their celebration was interrupted by a news alert on Ethan's phone. He frowned, reading the headline, "Victor Harrington escapes custody." Olivia's breath hitched as she read over his shoulder. How could this happen? "We'll tighten security at the foundation," Ethan assured her. "But we can't let fear dictate our lives." Despite his confidence, Olivia couldn't shake the unease. Victor's influence and resources were vast, and she knew he wouldn't give up easily. Meanwhile, the Carter-Bennett family continued to grow stronger. Liam, now fully reconciled with Ethan, had joined the Emma Foundation as a key advisor. His business acumen proved invaluable, and he became a trusted confidant. At a family dinner, Liam raised his glass. To second chances, he toasted, and to making the most of them. Emma, sitting on Ethan's lap, giggled and clinked her sippy cup against Liam's glass. "To family," she declared, her bright voice cutting through the tension lingering from Victor's escape. In the months following the gala, the Emma Foundation expanded its reach. New centers opened across the country, each bearing a plaque with the motto, "From compassion we build." Olivia visited one of the new centers in Chicago, where a group of women approached her. One of them, a single mother named Rosa Staus, said, "Because of you, I was able to start my own business. My daughter has a future now." Olivia hugged her, overwhelmed. "You're the reason we do this. Never forget your strength." Victor Harrington's escape began to cast a longer shadow. As strange incidents occurred, anonymous threats were sent to the foundation, and attempts were made to hack their systems. Ethan worked tirelessly with cybersecurity teams, but the tension began to wear on him. One night, as he worked late, Olivia found him staring at his laptop, frustration etched into his features. "We'll get through this," she said, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Ethan turned to her, exhaustion in his eyes. "What if he goes after Emma? Or you?" Olivia knelt beside him. "We've faced worse, Ethan. We'll protect our family, just like we always have." The couple doubled down on their security measures while continuing their mission. Ethan and Olivia remained a united front, using their challenges as a rallying cry to inspire others. During a press conference addressing the threats, Olivia spoke with her characteristic grace and determination. Fear is the weapon of the weak. Love and resilience are the shields of the strong. We will not be intimidated. Her words were met with a standing ovation, solidifying the foundation's position as a beacon of hope. The chapter concludes with Ethan and Olivia enjoying a quiet evening at home. As Emma played nearby, Ethan handed Olivia a small notebook. "What's this?" she asked. "Letters to Emma," he replied. "I've been writing them since the day she was born, one for every milestone." Olivia flipped through the pages, tears welling up as she read his heartfelt words. "This is beautiful, Ethan. She'll need them someday," he said, "when we're not here to tell her how much she's loved." As they held each other, watching Emma build towers with her blocks, the sense of peace was palpable. Their journey had been anything but easy, yet it had brought them to a place of profound fulfillment. Life is full of unexpected turns, and sometimes it's the smallest act of kindness that leads to the greatest transformations. What would you have done if you were in Ethan or Olivia's shoes? Would you risk it all for love, or choose the path of duty? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts mean the world to us. And if you found yourself captivated by Ethan and Olivia's journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There's so much more to come. Stories of hope, love, and resilience that will touch your heart and remind you of the power of human connection. Stay tuned for our next chapter, where we'll unravel another tale that might just change the way you see the world. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.